Southall Green. I want to thank everybody for turning out today. This is an important meeting that the community have asked for to discuss the former gasworks site that is now being developed into Southall Waterside. The community have clearly expressed some very strong concerns around air quality and pollution. And the number of people here this evening is a testament to the concerns that you have. Tonight is your platform to ask public bodies and the developer the questions that you want to ask. In terms of some housekeeping, we're not expecting any sort of fire drill. So if you hear the fire alarm, please leave the hall via the rear entrance. Do not leave to my left, your right. There is water at the back of the room, should you wish to have any. The way that this meeting will run, firstly, is that each organisation represented on the panel will speak very briefly for 3 minutes to introduce their role in the context of air quality and pollution. At the end of those introductions, we will open the floor for questions. In order to make this evening the most productive, we will attempt to ask questions according to each of the organisations. The way that will work is first the Environment Agency, then the Council, Public Health England, and then the Berkeley Group. The panel this evening is very large, but not everybody is going to be speaking at the beginning. It will only be 4 people, 5 people. This evening we have Councillor Julian Bell, the leader of the Council, Mark Wiltshire, the Director of Safety, Communities and Housing, Wendy Meredith, the Interim Director of Public Health, John Freeman, Regulatory Services Officer. From the Environment Agency we have Andy White, the Regulatory Environment Officer, Keith Spence, the Team Leader and Technical Specialist for Groundwater and Land Quality, Alex Chown, the Area Environment Manager for Regulated Industry. From Public Health we have Dr. Deborah Turbett, the London Deputy Director for Health Protection, Robbie Camneri, the Head of Environment Standards and Emergencies Department, and from Berkeley Group, Damien Naden, the Operations Director, Carl Whiteman, the Divisional Managing Director, and some representatives from Atkins. From Southall Green, we have Councillors Jasper Anand, Cameron Dinter, as well as myself. And from Southall Broadway, Councillors Jessica Anand, Karen Dalwal, and Karen Cameron.
Where's Mr. Sharma? Where is Mr. Sharma?
So what I'm going to say to people, please, in terms of housekeeping for this evening, obviously people have very passionate views about this topic. When we open the floor to questions, please raise your hand. Please only allow one person to speak at a time. And stay on the topic, and I will try my very best to make sure that we facilitate this meeting to stay on topic in each of the areas. All views will be heard, and please listen to each other with respect. So first I'd like to ask Councillor Julian Bell to open the meeting.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you everybody for coming in. As Peter said, people are very concerned about what has happened, and that's something that as Ealing Council and as elected representatives of Ealing Council, myself and other councillor colleagues that are here tonight have been acutely aware of. The issue has been ongoing for 2.5 years, and throughout that period, residents have expressed their concerns, and they have asked us to investigate the problems in various ways. So if I go back to just over a year ago, it was first thought that there were problems coming from FM Conway plant in Hillingdon, in Hayes. And so myself and others, we went to FM Conway, we talked with FM Conway, we also, through officers and personally through myself, spoke to Hillingdon Council, who are the regulatory authority for FM Conway. I won't go further on that, but that is one of the issues that has made this particularly complex and difficult, and we have made some progress in making changes to that plant at FM Conway in Guildford. In terms of the challenges at Southall Gasworks, the waterside development, the acute problems started to come forward last summer, although I'd heard of the smells long before that, so almost immediately 2.5 years ago when the soil remediation started, there were complaints from residents about the smells. And we were aware of those, and officers responded to those, and also councillors. Now, when things got particularly challenging last summer, I myself rang and spoke to the Environment Agency, and we had various communications and correspondence about the problem. Obviously, myself and other councillors visited the site. We had discussions with Berkeley and about what they were doing and what the problems were, and obviously we spoke with residents as well. As a result of that, back in September of last year, the council held a special air quality scrutiny committee. That was held at the end of September last year. I went along because, as well as being leader, I have cabinet responsibility for air quality. There were a lot of representatives at that scrutiny committee. All of the people here tonight were at that meeting too. The Environment Agency, the Atkins representatives from Berkeley, and also some of our technical officers from the council and our public health officers. At that point, last September, the council asked, because of the concerns that were being expressed, Public Health England to look at the problem, and we ensured that they got 3 sets of data. They've now given us 3 reports, the latest one which came out yesterday. And the results from those Public Health England reports, which they'll be able to speak to, have been clear that the results obtained from the air quality monitoring indicate that it is unlikely to be a direct toxicological risk to the health of the nearby population. Now, they then go on to talk about odour. We know that there was a problem with odour. We've all smelt it. We've all recognised that it's a nuisance, frankly, and a bad nuisance. The council recognises that, but in terms of the way that the regulatory process worked, because of the ongoing works on the site, it was the Environment Agency that were the primary regulator, and so issuing a statutory nuisance notice by the council would not have been the way forward at that point without any support from the Environment Agency. And the data and everything that was being done to mitigate the odours did not say that that was a route to go down. What was done at that point was that extra... I'm just coming to the end, but I think it's important to get these points over. If you let me, I am finishing, Chair. So there were extra monitoring arrangements put in place last July as a result of the Environment Agency and the Council's intervention. So I think I'll leave it at that, Chair, but obviously I think we need to understand that the major works have now finished. The soil hospital has been dismantled, the work has ended, and people are moving on. There are 300 new houses.
If I could please ask everyone, please just, we're going to now ask the Environment Agency if you could please remain calm. Please take a seat. Please remain calm. Answer the question. To speak for 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, my name is Alex Shaw. I represent the area leadership of
David, please remain calm. David, please remain calm.
The public, your constituents have a right to know if any of you have a financial interest.
David, we will open the floor to questions at the conclusion of the speech.
Please give me an opportunity. I tap my cap down so after 3 minutes. My name is Alex Shaw. I represent the area faction of London.
I have a 5-year-old daughter.
This is not
And nosebleed.
And if we
I have a 5-year-old daughter.
from the Environment Agency
After
and
this,
Public
I
Health
will
England,
be quiet. I have a 5-year-old daughter.
we will open the
She
floor
is suffering from asthma and nosebleed because of
We don't need you to give her a chance to speak at the speech.
Yeah? On my daughter. And you can't like business. What are you guys aiming at? What are you aiming at, man? This is because my time is suffering.
when we get to that point of the meeting.
My time is suffering.
We will come to at the conclusion of the contributions from the regulatory agency.
Hold on.
I'm going to ask the Environment Agency to continue.
Could you stand up so we can actually see you?
Yeah. Who are you?
If someone gives me a roaming mic, because you may not be able to hear me at the back.
Maybe we can hear him. So that people can see you.
Okay, have we got the roaming mic?
Please. Thank you.
Can you give my daughter oxygen? Can you give my daughter oxygen?
Okay, sir.
Just send a team of doctors and nurses around and knock on the door and help
We
them out.
are
Simple.
we are
We don't need all this
to
paperwork.
provide some assurance and to personalities. But in terms of my responsibility, I represent senior management here. I know that's what's been asked of the Environment Agency. We will explain through FAQs, I'm sure, a bit more detail. But our role here is around twofold. One, in terms of our inject through the town country planning, technical expertise around securing the target levels of clean-up and the science, validation of that science.
Bro, you ain't cleaned nothing up.
And that's my colleague next to me, Keith Spence. Also, the other part that we play is in relation to the waste clean-up activity. That's a regulated activity under the environmental clearance regulations. That sits with us and my team. I have oversight of over 700 sites across Hertfordshire and North London. This is a priority site, which is why we resourced it, which is why we're here today. Thank you.
And if I can now ask Margaret from the council to speak.
So, Evening Council has 3 key roles in the Southall site. Its first is the Planning Authority, and you'll all be familiar with the planning history for this location. It has responsibility for ensuring the planning conditions. Can you hear me if I don't use a mic?
Yeah. Give it, bro. What do you got?
Okay.
Paycheck, innit?
So, we are the Planning Authority.
Can't you get the basics right? I have a question for
Jean,
you all.
please. Jean, please.
You agreed, Peter Mason, to have a co-chair 2 weeks ago.
Jean, please.
At a public meeting, you said there would be a co-chair from the campaign for clean air for Southall and Hayes. Did you or did you not, Peter?
A round of applause for this woman, please.
Okay, so we are the first. So, I will try to stick to my 3 minutes. The Planning Authority has responsibility for ensuring the planning conditions are complied with at the site.
Oh, really?
It also has responsibility for air quality and environmental protection, and is particularly cited on ensuring that the contaminated land is remediated
And where
to
are
a
those
standard
records? Where are those records?
Sir, please.
Where are those
If there are
records?
interruptions in the meeting, we're not going to be able want you to make contributions from the floor.
Where are those records?
Please allow the
If
speakers
you
to
have
make
a
their
chair
introductory
for
remarks.
cash, we will get through this meeting. Exactly.
And finally, we obviously have responsibilities for public health and the population's health at large. This is undoubtedly a complicated site. You've heard the history that has been gone before. Our involvement very much has been to work with all of the key stakeholders. The land remediation that has been taking place up until the end of March was regulated by the Environment Agency. That creates a number of very difficult systems and legal reasons why the local authority is unable to intervene unless there is evidence that the environmental permit has not been complied with. And all of the information from stakeholders is that the environmental permit has been complied with.
How much did it cost?
We have continued to listen to residents, and we continue to listen to residents now, knowing that there is an ongoing odour issue which we have all experienced and acknowledge it is problematic. But sadly, that doesn't mean that we have the tools in the toolbox that will enable us to necessarily intervene, and that's because of the laws that we are bound by.
So what planning did you do to prevent any gas
That
leaks?
is not an excuse. That is to say that we continually keep this under review, that we continually work with stakeholders to understand what is going on, and we continually want dialogue with residents so that we can understand the ongoing challenges that are being faced.
I'm now going to ask a representative of public health.
Don't lie to the community. Don't lie to the community. We are the community.
I will reiterate. We will open the floor to questions and contributions. Brian, please. Brian, please.
Why are you not listening? There is a World Health Organisation that says there is no safe level of benzene
Are there
in the
regulations
air.
on once they have concluded their remarks? Public Health England.
My name's Robert Cavalieri. I work for Public Health England. Our role is to protect and improve health and well-being and reduce health inequalities. We do this by providing advice and guidance to government, local authorities and the public. In this instance, we have asked advice into the public health risk assessment
Please allow him to finish.
by assessing the air quality monitoring data, and we will continue to review the air quality monitoring data and update our risk assessments as this is ongoing. Thank you.
And I'd now like to ask a representative of Berkeley Group to make a comment.
Good evening. My name is Carl Whiteman and I'm Divisional Managing Director of
Who's the chairman and CEO?
I'm a resident also, and I'm very interested in this, and I would like to be able to hear the dialogue.
Darling, you want you to see what they do to your community. Will you do that?
in addition to being Divisional Managing Director at Barking West Thames, which is delivering Southall Waterside, I'm also a main board director of the Barking Group.
How many shares did you sell last year, Carl?
I didn't say
David, please.
Why did you sell shares
David,
in your company?
David, please.
Answer the question. Stand up.
To my left is my colleague David Lane, who's the Operations Director. Can you hear me now? To my left is Damien Layden, who's Operations. Damien is Operations Director for Southall Waterside and responsible for the delivery of the regeneration of the old gasworks say that both Damien and I are happy to be here this evening. No, seriously, we are happy to be here this evening to listen to your concerns, and hopefully, with the help of colleagues here this evening, hopefully alleviate those concerns. Thank you.
4 years.
Okay. So we are now going to open the floor to contributions and questions. As I said previously, we are going to attempt to do this with public authorities that are here. So at this stage, I'm very interested in hearing contributions specifically directed towards the Environment Agency. So there is a roving mic. Please wait for the roving mic to come to you. If you want to make a contribution, I'm very welcome.
Good evening, everybody. This is the people's meeting. You need to use this meeting to ask your questions. I know that feelings are running high. I feel very angry myself. But we have to really scrutinise the stakeholders that are here tonight. They have no intention, to be quite honest, of doing anything about our situation. It's just a tick box marketing exercise for them. We have to look at what we can do next to move the campaign on. If all of us jumped in our cars and went to the Berkeley Group headquarters in Cobham,
We're doing this.
we would shake Berkeley Group up. I've been there with my kids. I've seen that Grenfell United got in their cars, went to Sheffield to the cladding company, and I saw the video on Twitter. Again, it's a head turner, okay? Now, I'm not going to rehash my story for you.
Listen to her.
You know about it, okay? Things I'm concerned about is the influence that Berkeley Group have in our community. Now, Richard Butler, who isn't here tonight, is a governor at Blair Peach Primary School. He was nominated by the Ely Council. He's an LA citizen governor. Interestingly, in the minutes, he is lead governor for health and safety. And I said on Facebook, that's like putting a bank robber in charge of bank security. It is outrageous that somebody like that is in a school with a clear conflict of interest, which Ely Council refuses to accept. Cash had a meeting with Tony Pitchley, Carl's boss, Damien's boss. He made it clear it was my idea for Richard Butler to be on the board. We have a recording, and I will transcribe it. That is how much influence and power Berkeley Group have in the community and on the council. They go into local schools. I'm a careers advisor by trade, and I support school industry links, but I do not support what Berkeley Group are doing. Because what they're doing, they're making children sick. So they won't have the opportunity, because of sickness, to get the qualifications that they need to progress and flourish. This is what they're doing. It's all about PR to sell the flats. I went to an event on Saturday called Southall Community Sports Day. Berkeley Group had a gazebo there and flags. They were all over the event. They also had a Berkeley Group photographer there. It was simply a marketing exercise for them. How can they be a supporter of the Let's Go Southall Health Project and at the same time they are killing the community? Make no mistake, they are killing us. Okay? It is a catastrophe that is happening in front of our eyes, and it has to stop. I'm not a natural activist. I've been forced into this position. Okay? But if all of us do what Grenfell has done, march the street. You did it 40 years ago when the National Front were marching through Southall. You repelled them. You were successful. Make no mistake, what is happening is a threat to our community. It is environmental injustice at the hands of Ely Council and Berkeley Group in tandem. I mean, I don't want to dwell too much on my story. I'd like to actually say to you, don't just think that this meeting will resolve what we're experiencing. It won't, because I've got no intention of taking any kind of enforcement action under the Environmental Protection Act against party group. What we need to do is to get active, take to the streets, to march. I said to somebody, I was so deranged one day. I was driving on Pump Lane, actually, it was driving here. I said I felt like driving into the gates. But my rational mind took over because I've got 2 children to look after and support. But that is the impact. It's made me a very angry, aggressive person because I'm not able to protect my children in the way that I would like to. If you don't know about Cash, we have a very active Facebook group. Please join us. We're also on Instagram. I'd like at this stage to hand over to Joe Sidhu. He's recently joined supporting the campaign. You may have heard him on the Vanessa Belt show or read about him in the Observer article. Because he's really part of moving this campaign forward. Joe, can I hand over to you?
Can I please, my name is Joe Sidhu, I'm from this area, I'm born and brought up in Southall, I live on Camera Road. 9 years ago, I was chair of government at Beaconsfield Primary School. At that time, Barclay Group had applied for planning permission so that they could build these 3,750 units on this contaminated land. The community came together and our school fought very hard on behalf of the children at that school and their health to prevent that from happening. Barclay failed. They then took their appeal to Boris Johnson, who was then the Mayor of London. They no doubt made their representations using the resources that were at hand, and you can imagine for Barclay Group those resources are considerable. This is a huge company with a huge amount of money, and they were able to persuade Boris Johnson quite easily that actually this little town called Southall needs to have 10,000 more people living in it. On that day, I remember going vividly to the GLA and making a plea to Boris Johnson that this town of ours is already suffering unbelievable amounts of pollution. Traffic pollution, environmental pollution, principally because for many decades, Southall was regarded as an immigrant community that could be completely neglected by the authorities because they didn't think immigrants would speak back. I pleaded with Boris Johnson, I said to him, Mayor, do you appreciate that what you are about to make a decision on could have repercussions for many years ahead, indeed decades, for the health of our community? At that time, we believed that in fact Southall suffered the second highest incidence of asthma in this country because of the density of the population here and the way in which our community was struggling to survive. Those people already had severe health issues. Little did we know, naive as we were, that 7-8 years later, we would have people not just suffering asthma, but active poisoning by chemicals which can cause cancer, like benzene, like naphthalene, like asbestos. The mere sound of those words makes most of us tremble with fear. And these chemicals are being inhaled every single day of the year, every hour whilst people are awake and whilst they are asleep. And the feeling of anger that we are picking up in this room is because it's not the folks here, with all due respect to them, very few of whom I imagine have any real link to Southall and that part of Southall. It's the people over here, and the very many people besides, hundreds, thousands of other people who are directly affected by this poison. And why should those people be blamed if they stand up and they scream and they shout about the fact that their children and their elderly folk are suffering from respiratory conditions that they never had before? Of course they don't. Look at how this meeting has been set up. There you sit, and I sit with you, in opposition to all these very intelligent, educated, and highly qualified people. And they are set up in such a way as if to be in opposition to you.
Money's not everything.
Those organisations who have been active and great respect to people like Angela Fonso and David and all the others who have been pleading for months, if not years, to be heard on this issue. To say now, how is this our meeting? This meeting was not set up in a way that incorporated your feelings, your views. It was set up so that the people behind me, with all due respect to them, had an opportunity to tell you, not to ask you, not to discuss with you, but to tell you what they are or are not doing. Some of you may get the impression, from the contributions that we've heard so far, that this is nothing more than a continuing whitewash. What we're facing is a collective statutory failure to protect the health of local people, and in that failure, each one of these stakeholders behind me has to take a share of responsibility. That means the Environment Agency, that means Public Health England, that means Public Health England, and that means our local elected politicians who have been, we understand, performing some kind of oversight over this whole debacle. Every single one of those people carries responsibility for what's happening now. There is no surprise that there is a lack of trust between the community and the people behind it. What do we need? We need the truth. We need the truth about what actually is happening, not the truth from a consultancy like Atkins who have been paid for by Barclay, but the truth from people who are truly independent. We need the Environment Agency to perform and discharge their statutory responsibility. I'm a barrister, I'm a lawyer, I understand how these things should be done, and it's not being done. It's not good enough for people to simply say, we've looked into it, and actually we hear there's a few problems and there's a bit of overlap, but in fact there's nothing really too much to worry about because the professionals and the experts have said to you, you've got nothing to fear. No one trusts them. So what do we want? We want independent monitoring. The Environment Agency must do its job and actually put that together. We must have our council who are elected representatives to do their job to actually supervise what's going on. They simply cannot fold their arms and say it's somebody else's responsibility. So keep making noise, keep being active, keep complaining, and keep asking questions. Because in a democracy, that's exactly what we should have.
Indigent, please sit down. No, Indigent, please sit down. There are people who've been waiting to ask questions from the floor. I know people in
Can we have the co-chair from Cash now?
Ms. Benham has hand up and I would like to ask a question.
Co-chair from Cash.
There are people here.
I will carry on without the mic.
That is the purpose of today's meeting. So if I could please ask and I will answer these names questions. Could you please sit down?
Stand up and things! Nobody wants to hear! Let's have a show of hands. Who wants hands?
Southall Community Habitat, Southall Residents Association will not be silenced this evening. We will speak as one. This council has let this community down. We are here this evening. Thank you for that, Victor Mason. That didn't take long. My name is Inderjit Singh. I'm going to follow on what our colleagues have been contributing this evening. I advise Southall Community Habitat, a new charity that's trying to solve the housing crisis in Southall, the homelessness that we're affected by, and some of the other issues that affect our community like addiction, so on and so forth. Joe Bandu, who sat next to me here, just stood up a few minutes ago, is the chair of Southall Residents Association. We have issued a joint statement this evening, and I want to focus on that. 10 key points have been issued by us. We want action. We don't want words, hollow words, and we don't want to weaponize this particular issue either. We want an inclusive approach. We want organizations sat around this table to work with us, not against us. We don't sort of buy some of the rhetoric being put forward by others who have spoken this evening. no way. These are personal scores people want to settle. Good luck to them, but not this community. This community will not be taken for a ride. So what we're looking for, jointly, is an immediate end to the poisoning of our community and steps taken to independently monitor and deal with health impacts to date and in the future. On that point, I want to ask Sukhdev Singh, who sat in this audience, who's actually done independent medical reporting on his own health. He stated that in a public meeting on the 29th of June, outside the Broadway, well, inside Broadway. Can you stand up, just give us 30 seconds as to what they found in your body?
My name is Southall Gasworks. I've been living on Woodlands Road for the past 2 years since my father passed away. Since that time till earlier this year, my health went from very good to literally I was just crawling on the floor. Now, as a consequence of that, I went for a private checkup to a holistic centre and spent nearly £5,000, only to find out there are a number of heavy metals have been found in my body.
Listen to it, Barclay Holmes.
Now, I did some further research on CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Benzene is one of the worst things you could have and be affected as a result of it. It says the major effect of benzene from long-term exposure is on the blood. Long-term exposure means exposure of a year or more. Benzene causes harmful effects on the bone marrow and causes a decrease in red blood cells, leading to anemia. It can also cause excessive bleeding and can affect the immune system, increasing the chance of infection. Some women who breathed high levels of benzene for many months had irregular menstrual periods and a decrease in the size of their ovaries. It is now known, it is not known whether benzene exposure affects the developing fetus in pregnant women or fertility of men. Now, these issues have also an effect on the heart system, and I am now actually on a waiting list to have a triple heart bypass. Now, I don't know when I started, I didn't know why that was there, but now it all seems to be coming together.
Thank you very much. So this is an isolated incident. This is not an isolated story. So you heard it from Sukhdev Singh, a resident of Southall, directly impacted by this. So the second point on our 10-point plan is we've asked Public Health England to institute independent medical investigations and publish the data and compensate the people in the community affected by the gasworks site. Third, we want the Environmental Agency and the Council to institute urgent safeguards with Public Health England and the local CCG to our primary schools in and around the gasworks site to protect the health of all our children, young and old, and the school workforce. Four, we call on Barclay Group to provide the data to the current and future occupiers on the former gasworks site on the potential health implications of living on the decontaminated land through their registered providers like housing associations and their communication channels. Five, we call through the Southall Community Habitat that we deal with this community emergency on several fronts, with practically deliver with and for the people of Southall, starting with the provision of genuine social housing, run and controlled by its membership and the local people. Six, we want the council and developers in Southall to commit to working with local community, led by the Community Land Trust, Southall Community Habitat as a charity, to help address the housing, climate and austerity-fueled crisis. Number 7, commitment from Ealing Council. Commitment from the Meeting Council and the GLA Mayor, who left us with this legacy, to ensure independent surveys of all Southall Broadway homes are undertaken and compensation provided for the damage caused by the works at the former gasworks site. Number 8, regular quarterly meetings with the people most affected in Southall Broadway ward to address our concerns and to engage with local community organisations which are led and supported by the community. Number 9, Southall Community Habitat and Southall Residents Association do not rule out taking legal action into the future to protect and uphold the interests of local people.
Yes!
This is not our favourite immediate position, and do not support any legal action, as it's taken us 5 years to get the council to hold this public meeting to address our concerns. Number 10, and the final one, brothers and sisters. Southall Community Habitat and the Southall Residents Association work with credible and also representative organisations or agencies to achieve people-focused outcomes for our immediate and long-term goals. Thank you.
So we're doing environmental agency first, as we tried to about 20 minutes ago. Can I get an indication, please, as to people who have questions specifically for the Environment Agency? This chap here, I believe you've been waiting for. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take them rounds of 3. So, sir, if I could ask you to go first, and there's a chap here as well.
My name is Southall Dillon. This is not the first time we've had meetings to give our community, to giving our community, into us becoming endorsing plans in favor of big multinational organizations. There's only one question facing us. On this side is that group that want to increase their profitability for a Barclay group. On the other hand is the community where the real evidence is, are our children not suffering? Ask those families whose children are suffering from asthma and other illnesses. Are the families not suffering? That's where the real report, the real evidence that Joseph was saying is going to come from, not the reports you have. We have no faith, no trust in these reports, because we spent 5 years campaigning against the gasworks before 2010. In the year 2010, the whole community, the council, Ealing Council, our community, provided every evidence of the dangers you're facing today. What you're facing today is what we pointed then. It was rejected then. Why would the development carry on now? The question I ask simply to the community is, only one thing is, I'm going to ask my community, I don't care about this group. The reason why I don't care about them is, they only care for their profitability. We care for the lives of our children. We care for the health of our community. The decision we have to make is only one. Are we going to protect the interest of our community, or are we going to protect the interest of profitability of these organizations? And I ask our councillors one question. When you get elected, on what basis do you get elected? You get elected because you are the top for the community. Oh no, but I'm proud. His size here, others here. Listen, we stood as one. We as a whole, the councillors and the community were together, stood, rejected it. Why are we being insulted now when you were with us? Why are they insulting us when we won a unanimous decision rejecting the gas development? Oliver Eves here, I only ask one thing. We are on the side of the community, not on this marketing sales pitch. We didn't come for this meeting. We want our own meetings when you hear to us and uphold our democratic wishes and human rights. Thank you.
I'm very happy today because we just heard that they finished doing the soil amelioration, but I'm very cross that it's taken 2.5 years for us to be invited to engage.
4 years, 5 years.
2.5 years ago I started phoning up the Environmental Health Agency and asking them what they were going to do. And I got past pillar post between the council and the Environment Agency. So my question to the Environment Agency is, why are you here today when the work is finished? Why haven't we been able to ask you these questions in the last year and a half?
about communication is that I've been told by the council, oh, Barclays' job is to communicate how long it's going to take. Have you got their newsletter? Of course, I've signed up to their email. What do I get? A nice glossy brochure with people in high-vis jackets. Oh yes, progress is working well. No communication about how long the work is going to take. So it's the first time I've come today, I've heard the work is finished. So the question is, why did it take you so long to communicate adequately the timeline of the work involved?
Make sure I can see all hands, and I do want to make it.
Can you not see this thing on paper? It's been up for about 5 minutes. Shall I bring it closer? This.
Hello there, my name's Catherine. I'm a doctor, I am also a toxicologist. And I have a question both for the Environment Agency and Public Health England and Public Health Ealing. We know in the community that people are reporting symptoms. They're reporting headaches, they're reporting nausea, they're reporting infections, they're reporting difficulty concentrating, all of which can be attributed to benzene toxicity. And there is no independent air quality monitoring taking place. But I haven't also seen any inquiry into the burden of symptoms within the community, how people are actually suffering. So what will it take before anybody takes any kind of statutory investigation or statutory action? Will it take that people are dying of cancer before anyone will take notice? Because at the moment, nobody seems to care that people are actually suffering real symptoms and real illnesses from the air they're breathing every day. So my question to the statutory authorities is, what action have you taken? Can we see the data? And what action are you going to take off the back of it?
We will then come back to the floor for further questions. So the Environment Agency, and I will then call Public Health England.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's fair to say that it is challenging with regards to the variety of regimes. If I get given a hand point, I will happily stand up. But I think it's clear to say...
Bro, you're taking the piss. I have my hand up 10 minutes. This man here wants to speak, yeah? Sort it out, yeah?
So we are actively responding to queries that come to us. We are clearly accessible as an organisation, whether that's the free phone hotline number, that's a 24-hour number, whether it's through your elected officials, whether it's direct communication with ourselves. So with the gentleman who's concerned about communication, if there's specifics that we haven't replied to you, I'd like to hear about it, but we have responded to every query that has come in to me or to my department.
With regards to the air quality, yes, the local authority own an air quality strategy, so they're best placed to talk about that. But on the site specifics, within the submission of the mobile plant, the soil hospital that's been referenced, which decommissioned effectively in March, very first week in April, that has a monitoring strategy. And Public Health Group and obviously Comment have been diligent in publishing that report, which is available for yourselves. So there has been a process of learning and listening to yourselves, particularly I suppose mid last year was a gear change and understanding the evidence of concern. And we addressed that with obviously with those professionals associated with the development, so that will be Atkins and the Barclay Group and their remediation. So the data, we're an evidence-based regulator, and that's what we managed to collectively gather is evidence, so the Environment Agency can refer to that evidence. The permit that we issue is very specific around evidence. We will intervene when the evidence is there, and absolutely the developers understand our regulatory role.
So we're now, I'm going to ask the Public Health England if they'd like to speak.
Environment Agency to try
about the benzene and the health effects from benzene. Those symptoms of headaches and nausea, lack of concentration, can be caused by a whole range of compounds in the environment. Benzene is present in the environment for a range of compounds, androgens, or explosive compounds. The key thing is the levels of benzene boundary are within and below the UK air quality standards. However, we recognise the nature of benzene. We would want to see the levels as low as is reasonably practicable.
What were the levels? Load of bullshit. We don't want everybody to
More questions? The lady here, yeah, so okay, I'm going to ask, I'll ask the gentleman over there.
Can you not see my hand?
Hello, thank you. You talked about benzene levels possibly coming from more than one source, and I think there's a recognition that the benzene levels are higher here, or that they're at a level that is higher than regulations allow, is that right?
There've been occasional weeks where the average has been above, but the average overall has tended to be below the UK and the US.
So benzene's levels come from different sources. Could you tell us what other sources could be possible?
One of the key ones is vehicle exhaust, combustion.
Don't blame it on the cars.
I'm a
mechanic for mate, I was a mechanic for 10 years. Trust me, that is not even hard. It's not even anywhere near it. You need to understand, you know when you have vehicles, you know what's inside, you know benzene's not in it. Don't come up with that answer.
For two more people to make contributions, and then we're going to have panels on.
Let me see my hand, man. My hand will be up here for 12 minutes.
Hi, my name is Angela. I live literally behind the new flat. And my question is directly to Barclay Group. Why did you build the new flat? You know all the kids in Southall are suffering. My kid here, who's 8, he goes to Beaconsfield School, all the kids are suffering, and you're not doing anything about it. And especially Ealing Planning, why did you give planning permission in the first place? I don't understand.
I just want to come back to the Public Health England point. Yes, there might be many different sources of benzene in the environment, but unless you are doing an epidemiological study of symptomatology in the community, you won't know for certain whether or not it's coming from the gasworks site. Have you conducted that study?
We'll have just one more contribution and then the panel will respond.
My name is Pardeep Singh Roy. I've got a question for the Environment Agency. Could you release the EIA, the Environment Impact Assessment of the site before development started? All gasworks sites contain known carcinogens or cancer-causing chemicals. And these are now being released into the air in Southall. And also, World Bank has confirmed that they deodorize the chemicals they are using so that people can't pick up on the odors that's affecting the health of people in Southall.
And then Barclay, so would you like to, use the point?
Yes, I'm Deborah Turlington from Public Health England.
Sorry, can you hear me? Is that better? Yeah. I'm Deborah Turlington from Public Health England. In response to the question about the epidemiological study, we have not done that so far. But the...
Please allow to speak, David.
Brown lives do matter.
You just ignore us about it. That's lie.
The reason we have not done that is because the levels of benzene that have been released from the site during the soil remediation have not been at a level that will
Where
cause
did you get the
direct
data from?
long-term harms to health.
Not true.
However, Ealing Public Health Department of Ealing Council does monitor the health of the population in terms of diseases that are being caused within the population, and there's an annual report made by the Director of Public Health into the causes of ill health in the population, and that is monitored.
That's not true.
Why are you not touching cancer?
Hi, I'm Wendy.
Wendy, switch the mic on, darling, yeah? Thank you.
Sir, I'm sorry, I won't have language like that, so please contain yourself. We're going to come back to the floor in a minute.
We are not
Please
doing
be
matters here,
respectful.
Mason.
Please
You guys
be
are.
respectful.
You're the ones who are creating a hostile environment for us to live in.
Yes.
You're a bunch of racists.
Wendy Meredith, could you get it back? So I'm the Interim Director of Public Health for Ealing Council at the moment, and I know I've spoken to many of you about your health concerns, and I thank you for sharing all those concerns with me. I was the person who asked for my colleagues here in Public Health England to actually look into the health concerns that you shared with me. And they've done their risk assessment based on the air quality information available, and have concluded, based on the information available, that the risks to health are low. So based on that, it's very...
What about the evidence in front of you? Everyone's saying that health is effective. It's not true. Ignore the evidence of your eyes and ears. Do what the party tells you.
So what I would say is that if that risk assessment were to change, then we would obviously look into whether there was any more studies that it would be necessary for us to do.
What were the
But
average levels of
at this
benzene
point
from
in
January to
time,
April this
there
year,
is
please?
no reason for us to
It's not
undertake
in the
those
report. What are the average
studies.
levels of benzene from January to April?
You're a very passionate advocate. David, don't approach the table. No, David, please, David. David, please.
Because they're frightened about what I've got to say. They don't want you to hear me. Most of you already have, I think. But they don't want to hear me. Now then, naphthalene, which is one of, let's allow me, naphthalene is one of the main causes of the illness, yeah? And it's been over the limit, etc., etc. Now then, I did a bit of research, I'm going to be doing a bit of digging in my own lands, yeah? And the more I dig, the dirtier it gets, okay? Naphthalene, apparently, I've found research that shows that people from African and Asian ethnicity are genetically more susceptible to illnesses than naphthalene. In Southall. Is that true?
It is true.
Right, it's true. Now then, second point, right? Benzene. The Public Health England report was issued yesterday. Amazingly, the day before this meeting, the last report was issued yesterday. Well, I read it, and I thought this is interesting, because in the second report, they really helpfully put a comparison table. Yeah? So they did 3 reports. The first one was looking at the data from weeks 1 to 17, I think it was. The second one was weeks 18 to 20, 25, something like that. The third report was from January to April this year. In the second report, they compared the first period during the heat wave last summer, when they told us that was the worst of it. That's the worst it could possibly get. You know, it won't get any worse than that. That'll be the highest levels of poisoning you can expect. It's going to get better, don't worry. They did this comparison table. The levels were higher in winter. Can you believe it? 1.5, 2.5, 3 times higher in winter. They didn't do the comparison table in yesterday's report. I thought, that's a bit strange. Why didn't they do that? That was really useful. So I looked at the data and I thought, I can put this in a spreadsheet. You know, I do spreadsheets at work. It's great. I put it in a spreadsheet, added all the numbers up, did a bit of subtraction, multiplying, worked it out for myself. Do you know what I found? in January to April 2019 were 6 point something, yeah? But what's the legal limit for benzene? 5. It's 5. So it's above the legal limit for those slots. They all sell this the average over the year. You're lying to us again and again and again and again. When is remediation the cleaning of contaminated soil, not remediation? This one's really funny, yeah? Okay? John Freeman, hello John, how are you? You alright? When is remediation, not remediation, John? Can you tell us, please? No, I'll tell you. Okay. Well, remediation is not remediation. When John and his mate, James Potter, who's the contaminated land officer, whose post, can you believe this, was paid for by Bartley Group. Because we found planning documents which says that no, Barclay and anything cancelled planning is the remediation's finished. They closed the soil hospital at the end of March. We found the planning documents. Remediation, the cleaning of the contaminated land, is due to end in 2038. That's 19 years from now. Yes. Yeah? So I asked John, John's the air quality regulatory services officer, big cheese in the council, been there for years, looks like a man beside him. Now then, I asked John about it, and he consulted James Potter, whose post is paid for by Barclay Group. What? Really? Okay? James Potter came out, what is he? It's remediation in a sense that it's not remediation. Yeah?
Cover up.
Arrest the we are stupid.
He should run your development for you! Okay. I've been living in Southall for over 30 years, and I've been to majority of the meetings of Soundings, your PR company, before the first ever brick was actually placed in the site. Now, what they said at the Sounding meetings with the master plans, nothing will come through any of our residential roads. That was a pack of lies. Because what we have is Berkeley Group, Damien Layden, who's labelled us as troublemakers, Joe and myself, yes. Lorries will always go through the straits. But one thing they forgot to do was get planning permission from Hillingdon Council. And Hillingdon Council put a block. So they ran running. Guess who to who? Julian Bell. And he said, yes, go for it. Go for it. And then, anything goes. Because at the end of the day, we had big, massive HUVs going through Woodlands Road and Trees Road. Yes, during school period. Kids were going to school. I took pictures of trucks taking out cars. They didn't even realize they were hooked on the wing and pulling the car out. Dragging them. Kids were going to school. Yes, and their conditions were that they would not go through school period and school terms. Bullshit. Sorry for my language. But anyway, okay, apologies. But all I've got to say now is Mick Saviours, councillor, he wrote an email to Councillor Johan, who passed it to me. His quote is, it's not dangerous level. So what is dangerous level for brown-skinned people? If it's not dangerous level for white people, what's the dangerous level for brown-skinned people? Because, like they just said, ethnic minorities are perceptive to this. Yes? So if we are suffering. We make the majority here, unfortunately, yes, we make the majority. But at the end of the day, I've got a question. What is the dangerous level? Thanks.
Mine is a really simple question. Why are the statutory bodies who represent us after all Why have they not instituted independent monitoring? And what was the reason for that?
I'm going to ask Alice to respond, so if I can ask the public health England first.
I'm happy to try and answer that. Can I just ask, clarify, independent monitoring of what? Data. So we have looked at all of the data provided, sorry.
Independent
I'm trying to listen to lots of voices, so we have looked at the data provided by Atkins on the levels of contaminants that have been measured in air, and we have provided 3 reports with our independent assessment of those levels, measured levels, to Ealing Council, and those 3 reports have been published. I consider that to be independent. If you want other independent data monitoring, then perhaps... So if you want other independent monitoring of data, if somebody collects that data, we can independently monitor it. Then if you define for me what you mean by independent of whom?
Because there was a terrible, terrible smell in Greenwood Avenue for 7 nights on the road. So I looked at Ealing Council air quality data, and to my surprise, I found that I could find the data in Acton, I could find it in North Ealing, I couldn't find it in Greenwood or Southall, and when I asked about it, I heard that they were all closed down. Now my question to you is, if you're saying that this is independent monitoring, I understand that the monitoring is being done by Barclay and being passed to you. Why aren't you as statutory bodies doing your own independent monitoring?
The assurance I want to give you is that the application of the regulations, national, England and Wales sort of regulations, are being applied here and consistently applied. So we don't do our own monitoring. It is the industry. The industry recognises that and has the appropriate expertise, whether it's in-house or outsourced, and all the validation that obviously follows. Maybe Atkins can explain a little bit about their technical competencies, but from a regulatory perspective, the environmental permit is the legal lever that we hold people to account, and we're assured in what we've seen and we're satisfied with what the approach has been.
Very little time left. We have very little time left. I'd like to better respond, and then we'll...
Listen, I've had my hand up for half an hour.
Yes, and we're going to come to the floor in 1 second.
Could I just please comment on the independency of the air quality monitoring? As Alex suggested, it's a highly regulated area, and we have to operate as a developer under those regulations.
Say this, please. Let people make contributions.
developer. No, as I'm saying, it's an independent, it is an independently regulated area. I think if I could I just ask Atkins to respond in terms of their independence in that monitoring, please?
Let's allow Atkins to respond, and I'm going to come to the floor for another round.
Good evening, everybody. I work for Atkins, and I would just like to say that whilst, yes, we are being paid to do this by Barclay Group, we are a company of professional environmental scientists and engineers who work to professional standards.
Angela, please allow them to respond. Please allow them to respond, and we...
Okay. If you would like me to carry on, perhaps people would be prepared to listen. And we would apply the same standards, the same critical professional opinion if we were doing this work directly for the community in Southall or if we were doing it for Barclay. We are not influenced by who is paying us. We are independent professional scientists.
When I came in, I thought it was glass summer. Only one of them knowledge. I've been here all my life. This is the worst time I've ever known in my life. I was here when the war was going on, for God's sake. Bombs were dropping. This is worse. The worst time of completely ashamed. My man over there, Christopher, told me I wouldn't live to see the end of it. And for God's sake, I hope I don't, because it makes me so angry. Shame.
Can I direct this question to Carl? Hello? Hello? We meet again. You met me at my house, yes? Because I live right in front of your development with Tony. You said to me you would put a monitor in my house so you could monitor what the air was in my house. Why did you not do that? Because I have two family members who have got cancer, and I want to know why.
We'll come to the gentleman and then the New York hat. He will. I'll make sure he answers in that round.
Okay. Guys, thank you so much. First of all, I have been a Southall resident for 44 years. Born and bred, London, England, yeah? Firstly, Barclay, thank you so much for attending this evening. I apologise for the criticism, but there's going to be criticism and sarcasm. Just let me know when you want me to stop, but I have lived in this town for 44 years. First of all, the only thing I would like to make you guys aware of, my daughter, I have two daughters. One is 7 years old, one is 4 years old. My youngest daughter, she's now 5, she had asthma. And ever since... Baby, sweetie, listen to this. Because it's warranted by a doctor, I've got it warranted in a document by a GP. Please listen to me. My youngest daughter, who is the love of my life, both of my daughters, all I want to do is see them grow up. I want to marry them off into a wonderful house. My youngest daughter is 5 years old. I'm sorry if I get emotional, if I cry, if I shed a tear, please share it with me. But since you guys have torn up that gas pocket, the gas pocket,
You killed my father.
God bless him, rest in peace. My daughter is having severe nosebleeds every day. irrespective, at home, at school, she's having them randomly. She's an asthma sufferer, her asthma has got that. Okay. You guys are whoever you are, and I ask the Labour
Question of council.
darling, hold on. Where's Labour? Our local council get here. Where are they? I'm so sorry. Conway. You have allowed Conway to come here and set up. You have allowed Quattro to come here and set up. You have allowed Tarmac to come here and set up. Oh, that's not case, man.
Shame on our councillors. Shame on Labour. You have allowed it to happen. Money is more important than anything happens to my daughter. Shame coming to you like the Pelican Brief. I hope you catch What's the film? I hope you catch what we're at. I'm invisible.
Hello again. Responding to your question about when Tony and I visited you in your home, and thank you for allowing us to visit you in your home. We did say that we would go away and consider putting air monitoring in your home. We absolutely said that. I'm not denying that at all. We came away and sought advice as to whether or not that was the right thing technically to do. Sorry. No.
You know the levels will be high.
I think I'd like if you wouldn't mind to ask Atkins why that wouldn't have been appropriate.
This is what you answer.
I'm not. I promised. I said we'd go away. Can I ask Atkins just to take that process of why it wouldn't be appropriate? No, I'm not technically qualified to answer the question.
If I can ask people to take their seats. Please take your seats. Maureen, please take your seat. If I can ask people please to take their seats. Joe.
Evening, everybody. Carl did have that conversation. As he says, he's not technically qualified to decide whether this process is monitor. And it's quite an emotional day.
Jean. No, Jean, please take your seat. Jean, please take your seat. If you would like the question to be
as
answered.
is usual in all developments across the UK,
How was the Grand Cayman?
as in all developments across the UK, it is normal practice for environmental specialists to be employed to undertake and advise on air quality monitoring, on assessments. This is completely normal practice. There is no malicious intent on anyone's part.
That lady, she turned around and said the bedtime levels are at the minimum. There should be no bedtime.
Monitoring inside people's homes
There should be no
will
bedtime.
not necessarily give Barclays the information that they require in order to control emissions coming from the source. So that is close to the soil hospital. So it's much more useful for us to see the concentrations around the boundary. We can get a really good picture of how the concentrations vary.
There's no traffic, darling, there's no boundary.
Then
Oh, it's
where-
an area with
The monitoring has been undertaken. The monitoring has been undertaken at an increasing number of locations in response to
Joe, please. I'm going to bring in the Environment Agency now.
Someone's gone through that data and demonstrated that the benzene levels in the air are above the recommended limits.
Then we'll ask public health the environment.
I think we have effectively answered this question in terms of the monitoring strategy, which is through the environmental permitting, and there's a very defined catchment area in that regard. We don't have environmental health remits, so we wouldn't do monitoring individual dwellings.
And public health
We get the study that we want. Please can you answer that? Public health England. Because CCG refused to come here this evening.
Why don't you stop doing any of the work and do the research?
There have been occasional weeks where the benzene level has been
How much money have you been paid? How much money have you been paid?
That does not require or present a threat to health because you're comparing 1 week against a whole annual.
How much money have you been paid?
On poisoned land that had been lying there where nothing would grow, with carcinogens, with lists of chemicals, which I got here from when we campaigned in 2004 and 2005, and the Labour Council eventually turned down the planning development. Then Conservatives got in Ealing, and again we campaigned, and again they were forced to turn it down by this community, only to have it undemocratically overturned by Boris Johnson. And one of our concerns, in fact our major concern all along, was the health of local people, not just the fact that it was a horrible, greedy, inappropriate development During all of that campaigning, there were concessions made. It wasn't Berkeley, it was Castlemore. Because what they do to get planning permission, once they've got planning permission, then it's Christmas, isn't it? Then they sell it on to somebody else. But they did promise, and I'm absolutely sure it's there in council minutes, that they would pay for a council environmental health officer to monitor on behalf of the community. And I'd like to understand why there isn't such a paid-for council environmental health officer. For example, they said at the time, this is June 2005, odours. Remediation occasionally produces pungent odours, and these would be assessed regularly by site observations at each excavation area. Promises, this is all before they got the planning permission. Prompt reaction plans for suppression would be in place. Where proximity of the public and wind direction demands, odour suppression measures would be taken. All of the promises that were made at that time just seem to have floated away once they got the planning permission. And really, I don't believe. There was, I don't know if you saw it in the newspapers a couple of days ago, there was a report that children living in Birmingham have their life expectancy shortened because of pollution in the area. And it's not uncommon in highly polluted areas because we've already got pollution here. We've got airplanes going overhead. We've got an industrial area, so we're adding to that. And, you know, it is children's lives that matter. I can't imagine that with all the money at stake, anybody is going to readily admit that poisoning local children. So it is down to people power, and I would like to see a bit more of a lead from the council with environmental health, and use the powers that they've got. Independent, well, absolutely. The very last thing I wanted to point out is we've lost our children's services at a local hospital. You can't take the kids to A&E now, and we need to get that back as well.
We are now out of time.
No, we're not out of time. Shut up, Chair. Let the people have their
I've got a question.
I'm afraid we are out of time.
I've got a question for Barclay Homes, and that's to do with the staff that they employ on the construction site. I'm just wondering, have you had any staff who worked there for a long time over the last, constantly over the last 3, 4, 5 years? And also, if you carry out any kind of monitoring on the people who work on site, that would be quite, interesting to find out.
I'm going to ask Martin to answer that final question, and I'm afraid we are out of time. I'm afraid we are out of time.
You've not started time.
Take time. Take time. What's that? £5 million sitting behind the desk? Take time.
Your chairman's absolutely hopeless. Your board chair is hopeless.
Sorry, sir. In answer to the question about the monitoring of our people on site, the answer to that is yes, there is health monitoring of people working on site.
How many people have volunteered?
I am now afraid we are out of time.
Take time. Take time for the community.
You're very technically and ably.
It's far more important to people's lives. Do it, of course, in sharing. You haven't done a very good job. Let the people have their say. Because this will get...
How many people in this room want to continue for another 20 minutes? How much?